Tisoc Arenas. I'm here. I'm here with Teamsters Local 223, and I'm here to honor Allan Baird and all the contributions he made to the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, but also the gay rights movement. He was a great coalition builder, and a lot of it was not just the bare bones making lives better for working people, but also drawing in all of these different communities, the Chicano movement, the gay rights movement, the black civil rights movement, just creating kind of some commonality amongst those movements and getting folks on the same page about stuff, because there's a lot of intersectionality around all those issues, right? So that's why I'm here, and I think that's, great contribution.
You think that's going to be necessary to organize Amazon as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I knew somebody was going to ask somebody about that. Yeah. No, I mean, look, coalition building going forward is what's got to happen within the labor movement and outside of it, too. So this is a great place to honor somebody that did that,
How long have you been a Teamster?
Well, I've been on and off. I was a business agent for about 1.5 years, and I've been a rank and filer for about 1 year. So I'd say about 2.5 years.
What local?
223, Portland, Oregon.
Portland. So you came all the way down?
I did. I'm actually from near Fresno originally, and I used to live in Hayward for 1.5 years. So I've been around.
My name is Cleve Jones, and we're here today to honor Allan Baird, who lives in the neighborhood. He used to be friends with Harvey Milk, and he and Harvey were the ones that brought the Coors beer boycott to the gay community, and the very first alliance between organized labor and what is now called the LGBTQ community. So their partnership was very historic and had really long-range consequences to the benefit of workers and LGBTQ people.
What were the kind of obstacles you faced in trying to get that coalition going?
Oh my God, it was the Teamsters. People forget, but it was still illegal to be gay back then. We didn't have corporations with diversity and inclusion departments. People, if they knew you were gay, you got fired.
JD, I'm with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters LGBTQ caucus. I'm on the executive board, and
which local?
Local 2010, representing the UC system. And we're here today because Allan really brings together what Teamsters is about. It's about bringing all the different parts together in a common cause. And I mean, I was a young man, and I was I was a teacher at that time, and I was a union member at that time. I've been a union member for 30 years, over 30 years now. So.
And discrimination, and what is the role of a union in fighting discrimination against not only gays and lesbians, LBGT community, but everyone?
Our policy and the way that we all follow is that there is no reason to discriminate against anyone, and that's within our own ranks. And the thing that we always are watching out for is for those outside forces that come in to discriminate against our workers.
And are you facing any threats that you see, the workers?
There is some discrimination going on within. It is the second largest employer in the city, and you have a group of people who are dedicated to medicine, and not so, their focus is on medicine and their patients and stuff, and not so much about following policy and how workers feel and what workers need. So those needs are. We have to bring them in and teach them, and once they become aware, they become really good partners with the workers.
Joseph Celia with Teamsters Local 2785.
And what brought you out here today?
What brought us out here today is something that happened with the Teamsters and the LBGT community.
What was that?
Well, it was winning a strike that we had with Coors.
And Coors had a record?
Coors had a long record.
Against unions and gays and lesbians?
Correct. Both sides came together and formed a unity and won a very good victory.
You think that's the future if labor is going to get strong again? a coalition and building a unity? I mean, you're facing Amazon trying to break unions?
That is joining the communities together with the unions is a way to get the big corporations to listen. They have to come in our town. This is a union town. San Francisco is a union town.
And the issue of keeping a union, like Amazon, if they build this big warehouse, they bought a whole square acre, and they're planning to build a big warehouse. What kind of threat would that be to Teamsters in San Francisco and small businesses?
It's a big threat. UPS is right around the corner. Amazon puts a lot of packages in the UPS system. So if they have their own system, they're a competitor, a non-union competitor.
Very low wages and bad conditions.
Very low wages, very low pension, no health and welfare, if any at all. Yes. No comparison.
Sally Bookman, SEIU 10-to-1 Lavender Committee and PRIIDE at Work. I'm here to honor my friend Howard Wallace, who was in Bagel, which is an early LGBT labor group. They worked with, I forgot his name, to get Coors.
Walter Johnson?
No, the other guy.
Allan Baird?
Allan Baird, yeah. To get Coors out of the Castro because they give tons of money to anti-LGBT groups. And I actually have a photograph of his banner that says, "Fight the right, no Coors." And guess what? Right now, the Stonewall Inn in New York City is boycotting all of Anheuser-Busch's liquids.
So how were they able to organize to get the bars and the other businesses to stop handling Coors beer? And why did they want to stop handling Coors beer?
Because Coors Beer gives money to anti-LGBT groups, the people that own it, okay? So the other thing that Howard Wallace did, which is so cool, he went to the brand new LGBT center that was trying to get funding, and guess who was there? Cheney's gay daughter, who worked for Anheuser-Busch, and was trying to get Coors on the name of the building.
They'd love that, huh?
And so he went there and explained it to these young people that didn't know anything about it, about their history of anti-LGBT. Even though they got, same-sex partner benefits, they give hundreds of thousands of dollars to anti-LGBT groups. So I'm here to celebrate Howard Wallace and the guy who gave Harvey Milk his megaphone. This is so cool.
And the role of unions, how have unions been important in fighting for workers?
We have to fight for what? The 8-hour day, to have weekends off, no children in labor, and every single, progressive thing, labor has been out there most of the time fighting for it. I was part of the people that lobbied the AFL-CIO to get PRIIDE at Work, which is an AFL-CIO constituency group, and then we had to lobby them to get funding. And I knew Rex Spray, who helped start the Lavender Committee in San Francisco, Local 790, which is now 10-to-1. We now have a national group. Our SEIU National endorsed the Equality Act several years ago when the House of Representatives passed it, and now Biden wants to pass it too. Why? So people can't get fired for being gay or trans.
That's still happening.
Yes, it's on the list. Right now, there's a few other big things he has to pass, right?
And this uprise in racism and attacks on trans, I mean, what is this? I mean,
it's fear-based. It's fear-based, really. It's ignorance and fear-based, basically. And then there's also, of course, a group of people that channel their hate into focusing on other people. I mean, a lot of groups have been targeted over the years. Obviously, the Jewish people, which is really, really sad, blamed for stuff they didn't do. And people are afraid, and they don't understand science, and there are a lot of science deniers. I mean, when I was in college, I learned that sexuality is a continuum. I mean, why not be free and be happy? In the Roman times, gay marriage was happening.
Some people believe that's a sin, the religious right, and they're using it to...
Fear-based. That's all fear-based. Do you think Jesus ever wrote that? Hell no. Hell no. Besides, it's all these people that wrote things after the fact. From their own opinion, we know what that's like. Fox News. Fake news.
And what kind of work did you do?
I was a clinical dietitian for 26 years at San Francisco General, and a shop steward, and an e-board delegate, and on all these caucuses and committees. And I was the co-chair of the Lavender Caucus for about 10 years.
Is it still going strong?
It is. It's not easy during COVID, but we still do different things. We actually sponsored a labor contingent and a labor booth in Oakland Pride when it came back the second time for 3 or 4 years now. So we're trying to get the word out about LGBT rights to people in the labor community and educate the LGBT community about how important unions are. Okay, so the top one is Pride at Work. I went with Howard Wallace and Vince Quackenbush and myself to show Labor Cares that an injury to one is an injury to all, and this was in the Candlelight March to celebrate Harvey Milk's, birthday. When I was the co-chair of Pride at Work for 8 years, I would organize cable cars, and we would have everybody march with us from labor, like the United Farm Workers, different groups with the Labor Council, and that's Howard's banner that he had for many, many years when he fought to get Coors out of the Castro. It was really hard, just like the Briggs Initiative that we had to fight. The Briggs Initiative was to say, if you're gay or lesbian, you can't teach kids.
I think they want to bring that back.
They are bringing it back in some states. I mean, it's just fear and hate. It's sad. Somewhere in there's a good person somewhere.
So you're Leslie Ewing. So what does this day today mean for you?
Well, to me, this is the kickoff of what Pride really should be, where community comes together and is a grassroots effort and
a people's kind of movement.
And I think that's what we're going to see all weekend, actually. It's really good. It's good to have something that counters the commodification of Pride.
What does that mean, commodification of Pride?
Where Pride equals dollars. I'm on website or on Facebook, and I do a tacky Pride series of pictures and things. And I knew the assimilationists had won when Dr. Scholl's came out with a Pride rainbow shoe this year. So there you have it.
Well, it seems like that's happened to everything. I mean, commodification and product development.
It's not just this. So.
Were you here when Howard and Allan were organizing around Coors?
No, I was not.
Where are you from?
Well, I live in the area. I live in Berkeley, but I've been here since '81. So
what do you think about this rising attacks on gays, trans? It seems there's a growing right-wing tide in this country to turn back people's rights.
Well, I think that's something that I've known for 40 years, so I'm not surprised by it. But I also see. I bitch about the commodification of Pride, but I also see advertising on TV like State Farm or something like that, where they're showing gay couples and families and normalcy. And that can't, even though I quiver at assimilation, I understand that there's going to be pushback, but guess what? We're winning.
My name is Isaac Lindenauer. I'm a resident and merchant of the Castro for 45 years. And Allan is my neighbor, and I have the greatest respect for him, and I'm so glad that we're getting to honor him today for his lifetime of commitment.
What in your mind, what was the importance of his contribution to?
Allan was the beginning of the connection of the labor movement to the gay community, and that was the beginning of the coalitions which have formed across the country ever since.
Was that a battle? Was that difficult to do?
Allan is just so strong. I brought my tiger because he's a tiger, and I wanted him to see it.
He wouldn't give up.
No, he was remarkable as a leader in Union 888 for years. And the story, in case it hasn't been told, he came to Harvey Milk and asked him if he would see to it that Coors beer, which was served in the bars all around here was boycotted. And Harvey said, sure, if you'll hire some gay truck drivers. Allan grew up in this neighborhood, he and his wife. He's lived here all his life. He's 89 years old. And he was open-minded enough to both fight against Coors before LGBTQ people were involved, and Harvey was open-minded enough to realize that it was the right thing to do. So that formed a lasting friendship, and that friendship was seminal and is the cause for the greater connections in unions and LGBTQ all across the country, and other minority groups as well.
So, in other words, the issue of rights for gays and lesbians connected to issues rights for every.
Absolutely. You know, all of the minorities are subjugated to some degree or another by the power elite, and we're stronger when we express our solidarity with other minorities.
And the issue of Amazon and their treatment of workers, Amazon, the effect that they're going to have on small business in San Francisco. Are you concerned about that as well?
I am a small businessman, and yes, I am. I'm usually very private. Cleve said, come out with flags and flowers, and, you know, I'm an old coot in this neighborhood, but I thought it was important enough, and I want to honor Allan. So, yeah, all of those issues impact on small businesses, not only Amazon, but big business in America in general.
My name is Bradley Wiedmeyer. I've been a supporter of the Gay Caucus in Labor for a long time. We're honoring Allan Baird today from the Teamsters, who was connected into the Coors boycott in the 70s with Harvey Milk and Howard Wallace. So we're here honoring our labor roots in the gay community and our gay roots in the labor community today.
And there was a struggle to stop Coors. What was that all about?
Coors was, a far-right corporation in the 70s supporting far-right candidates, anti-gay candidates, and there was a boycott called on the beer, and the LGBTQ at the time organized a boycott and extended it into labor, and the Teamsters were fantastic because they, partly because of Allan Baird, adopted a no delivery policy and a boycott of Coors. So even today in bars in the community, it's difficult to find Coors, even, what is that, 45 years later or something.
And the rise of fascism, are you concerned about increasing xenophobia, homophobic attacks, and it's like a national campaign?
Yeah, an international campaign. I mean, we see the church doing the garbage around abortion rights, around women's rights, and at the very same time that supposedly the Pope didn't intervene in the no communion for Biden issue, his foreign minister delivered to the Italian Parliament a letter against gay rights in Italy and actually gender rights across the Italian state. So we have this upsurge of right, and the bishop here in San Francisco is involved in this. It's disgraceful.
And why is that? Why is there a rise of the fascism and discrimination against gays and lesbians?
Well, we see people are beginning to stir. In Buffalo, they elected a Democratic Socialist as mayor, and the far right has to put that down. The church and the parties connected with the establishment capitalist state, the Democrats and the Republicans. We need a labor party. We need a labor and communities of color and gender communities party that will fight politically in the political realm. We can't rely on the capitalists to do this. We're being drugged backwards again.
Okay, thank you. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a home care worker. I was, I can say who I worked for now because he's deceased. I was a home care provider for Howard Wallace, who was a labor leader, ran for supervisor, had the bad chance of running at the time Harvey Milk ran, but anyway, we won with Harvey Milk. So. And
Harvey Milk is well known here. He was a big supporter of labor.
Yeah, he had a very good labor policy. He was very supportive of labor, and much more so than even the mainstream Democratic Party. Absolutely, totally was a giant step forward. Just like in Buffalo, this Democratic Socialist, was calling for a minimum wage increase in Buffalo, monitoring citizen panel over the police, rent control. These are steps forward for people when we break free of these. Well, unfortunately, she's a Democrat, but we got to push her to be independent because they'll be trying to win her back to their do-nothing policy.
Tom Amiano, and we were trying to organize teachers who were gay because the discrimination was horrible.
What kind of discrimination?
Well, the name calling on the play yard. If you were too, in quotes, obviously gay, you wouldn't be hired. They didn't want men to teach lower grades. It went on and on and on. And most of the homophobia I heard was in the teachers' rooms. So it was the teachers themselves. And I knew that had to change if you were really going to be a teacher. We found like people and Allan was one of them. We wanted to influence the teachers union, to put us on their agenda, and particularly Harvey and Allan were our champions for that. It was all uphill in those days, for women as well and people of color. And without those two guys, I don't think some of the changes we've seen today would change. They really were. They had what I call a bromance. They were both different, but they shared the same values, and it worked. They took that line that was supposed to be between straight people and gay people, and they obliterated that line, and it was quite significant for the time, and we're benefiting from today, and we still have a long way to go.
And the rise of homophobic, attacks and racism and this right wing, why is that happening?
I think, people have sat on certain feelings for a long time, and then when you get people who you've been against, getting their rights or reclaiming their rights and having more visibility, the institutionalized homophobia is still there, even with all that. So it's in all our systems, whether it's schools or religion. And so I think they feel they got permission. Also, a rule of thumb is many virulently anti-gay people who resort to violence against transgender, etc., probably have a sexual orientation problem themselves. And this is one of the crippling things of being in the closet, is to act out violently.
They have psychological problems that they can't accept their own.
Right, and from what I have seen, big wardrobe problems too.
Long live Allan Baird! He lived his entire life in our neighborhood. When the neighborhood began to change, he embraced the change. He became very close friends with Harvey Milk. And when the Teamsters and the AFL-CIO went on strike against the Coors Beer Company, boo! It was Allan and Harvey who decided to ask our community to be part of that. And we got Coors beer out of every gay bar in North America. So many of our friends who work in the queer nightlife industry who have been really hurt by COVID. It's just another example of how we come together to look after each other and defend working people. We also have people from the Gay Men's Chorus who just did a rehearsal with musicians from the Musicians Union. Yes. We have Sal Roselli here from the National Healthcare Workers Union. Where are you, Sal? Behind the pole. Who is a gay man. Yeah. We have Anand Singh from Local 2, part of Unite Here, which is my union, the Hospitality Workers Union. We have Mike Casey, and where's Kim from the San Francisco Labor Council. I'm probably going to leave. The heads of two of the largest unions in this country, the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, are both run by lesbian women. The chair of the House of Representatives Labor Caucus is Mark Pocan, an openly gay man from Wisconsin. The head of the Retail Clerks Union, Stuart Applebaum, a gay man. So all of these realities, all of the contracts that have been won that protect LGBTQ workers, who defend workers from discrimination and abuse based on sexual orientation or gender expression, all of that progress goes back in one very clear line to Allan Baird and Harvey Milk. We have Terry Beswick here from the LGBT History Museum. Do you want to say a couple words real quick?
I just want to.
Oh, here, let me.
Howard Wallace!
Yes, Howard Wallace.
Hi everyone. I'm just Cleve's head schlepper today. You know, this bullhorn was put on exhibit at the Smithsonian in Washington D.C. as part of their pandemics exhibit before the current pandemic actually happened. So it was quite prescient to show this bullhorn's role in fighting the AIDS epidemic by this man's work in organizing our community and fighting and defeating the AIDS epidemic. Of course, it's not over, but this was an important illustration in the context of the history of pandemics throughout the world. And of course, we're currently experiencing a terrible pandemic, and so I love that we've brought this back, and so Cleve requested that it be brought back. This was originally given by Allan Baird to Harvey Milk, and Harvey Milk passed it on to Cleve Jones, and Cleve is going to give it to our museum as soon as it comes back to from the Smithsonian.
You see what he did there.
So thank you so much for allowing us to courier it here for you, and thank you, Allan Baird, and to the entire labor movement for all their work in supporting LGBTQ history and rights. Thank you.
Somebody shouted out the name of Howard Wallace.
That was me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Howard Wallace was an organizer with SEIU. He passed several years ago, but he was actually one of my mentors even before I met Harvey Milk, and his whole life's mission was to bring our two movements together and understand that they were really one movement. Is Ruben here? Ruben, he's up. Come here. I want these two gentlemen to introduce themselves to you and tell quickly how you came to be on this corner with all of us.
Long story short, Allan Baird is my hero. I reached out to Cleve. No, Allan is my hero. He was a great coalition builder. To move forward in the movement, that's what we have to do. We have to stop siloing ourselves off from one another and be more cohesive if we're going to move forward anything that we want to move. So that's all I have to say. It's really great to see everybody here today. Thank you. Stronger together.
Hello everybody, my name is Ruben Bastilles. Recording Secretary of Teamsters Local 70. I reached out to Cleve to try to get with Allan to pay respects. I'm a member of the LGBT caucus. In my opinion, if it wasn't for him and his coalition building, who knows where the caucus would be at this point. And to me, he was a trailblazer and a trendsetter.
I'm here because I've been part of this history. I'm old enough to have been there in 1975 and before with the beer strike of the Teamsters. And I remember Allan when he was younger and Harvey, and if it wasn't for those guys and some of our leadership that was I wouldn't even call us progressive in those days. I'd say we were very needy of building a coalition. And we needed the community to help us, and Harvey and Allan worked out. He was local 921 at the time, and I'm proud to say that local is merged into local 853. We brought Allan some 853 stuff today, but without that group, without what happened in the gay community, we would have never survived that strike. And the Coors strike, although it kind of ended in 75 through an understanding, it never really ended for a long, long time. That boycott stayed on, you'll never find a Coors beer in my house. So I want to thank everybody that's here. This turnout is wonderful. And the Teamsters are proud to be associated in every way and form with everybody that's here. And again, you need help, you need jobs, come see us. We're there. We made a promise in 7.
Please welcome Anand.
So just on behalf of the members of Local 2, hotel and restaurant workers here at San Francisco, we are here to thank Allan for his leadership, his foresight, his struggle, his sacrifice. He's really the mark of a great leader, and his tradition carries on in the labor movement today, so we're appreciative of that, and we're here to show our appreciation.
I have different people to thank. I hope I can get through it, though, because this is very tough for me.
Take your time.
Go ahead. I want to thank my caregiver, Jesse.
Jesse?
Jesse. Jesse, come out and say hello to people. Come here.
Hello.
This is Allan's caregiver.
Thank you, Jesse.
Jimmy, who's like a brother to me, this man here. He's a gay brother. And I should have said this right from the start about Cleve. There's no one like Cleve.
There isn't. That's probably for the better.
During the premiere of the Milk movie, I was in one different aisle at the Castro Theater, and Cleve was in another one. And when it was over, I went over to congratulate Cleve, what he did with everything. And he couldn't talk to me. He was crying too much. I mean, that's Cleve. He was so emotional over Harvey. He loved Harvey, believe me. And Harvey loved him. And Cleve, you really should be congratulated right now for that. I gotta mention a new book that's out by this lady, Allison Brantley, and it's about Coors beer, what a rotten company it is. And I hope you read about that book, please, because it tells everything about Harvey in there. It's in there about me. It's in there about other people that are very close to everyone. Like Andy Serkelis, this man was my right-hand man in the boycott. Without him, there would be no boycott. He worked night and day along with me all the time. He was a real progressive person. And the other thing was with the people, there was no one like this man, Howard Wallace. He came to me at the start of the boycott and talked to me about the boycott. He grew up near the Coors Brewery in Colorado. He knew everything about him and explained to me everything about the brewery, what rotten bastards there were. That's just the way he talked about them. And I'm just quoting Howard. But Howard was the most great person there was, believe me. And this is why I wear this pen that he gave me from the United Farm Workers Union. And he was just a terrific guy with the United Farm Workers. He worked with them. Yeah, just great. And what he did one day was, which was so great about him, he was parked at the Safeway on Market Street with the boycott United Farm Workers. And he came up to me on Castro Street. I was boycotting a store on Castro Street by the cross street from the Castro Theater. And he said, Allan, would you come down and join me at the Safeway with your group and be with the Farm Workers Union? I did. I joined the Farm Workers with him. Well, what happened after that, I was told the next day to come down to the Western Conference of Teamsters and meet with them. And I didn't know what it was all about, But I got down there and they told me off. I had no right doing this to be with the United Farm Workers Union, that I did the wrong thing. And I didn't give a damn what they said. Because the United Farm Workers, what the Teamsters did is a shame. I think probably most of these bastards that lived in the fields and killed them were horrible. What they did is send in goons from the Teamsters Union to the fields and beat up women and men with clubs to try to take over their territory in the fields. And all these people were doing was trying to do the right thing to help Cesar Chavez, another wonderful man, Cesar Chavez. I had a chance to meet with Cesar and talk with him too, very briefly. But he was on his way to another event. I did talk to Dolores Huerta. She came and met me and helped me out too. And I appreciated her too, Dolores Huerta. There's a few other things I have to say. I had a wonderful wife that passed away a few years ago. She was a strong lady. And her and her brother owned a bar, believe it or not, in the Castro District in the late 50s and 60s. And her bar was at at Market and Laguna Street, called the Libra. And I'll tell you how strong she was. She had told me about different women coming in the bar. It was a man's bar. And she told me she didn't know what was going on because they were hugging each other all the time, and they were kissing and everything. And then more and more came in, and she said they just were terrific, and she treated them terrific, and that was it. But from that, just more things happened from that. They were just great people, and. I want to tell you about the Latino people. When I was working on the boycott, put an X on it. Latinos. Yes. Yes. Representing. Thank you. It wasn't easy for me to work, and it was worse for them because they didn't want to be associated with me, the Latinos people, because what they were doing to the farm workers, I already explained that to you, was a shame and a dirty shame by the Teamsters Union. And I'll never forget that about the Teamsters Union and what they did at that time. And I just got to thank these other people that helped me out through all of that and tried to convince the Latino people that Allan was doing the right thing, And I worked with Howard Wallace and made sure that they knew what I was trying to do, but the one that broke through everything was Andy Serkelis, the great person he was that did all the work and everything in the fields, helping me. They would go out, Coors people, and stab his tires, bust his car and everything else, all rotten things, threatened him, and he just didn't take their crap. Same as they threatened to me. The Coors drivers in Oakland, California, came up to me. They got out of their truck. What are you doing? I says, I'm following you. That's my job. I'm following you. I'm going to the next store with you. That's where I'm going. And one of them pulled out a knife and put it in my stomach. He says, I can fix you right now, and it'll all be in self-defense. I says, don't you understand what I'm doing? I tried to explain to him. There were two black drivers, two terrific guys I found out in the end. But they were told to come out there and do violence. That's what they were told by the company. And they just wanted to start with me. That's what it was. But I didn't give a damn, to be honest with you. I didn't care. My job was to do the boycott, not to argue with people. And I didn't like arguing with them. So that was it. I want to say something else about my friends. I see them right here. Jeff, go ahead. There he is. And how you doing? Good. I see George, the two owners of the Twin Peaks Bar. Now that bar, I gotta give a lot of credit to them. I went one day in there and George was working, and I had a great picture that I have on my wall in my house about Harvey Milk on Market Street in a car, and Ann Cronenberg was his right-hand person with him. And I asked George if he would put the picture of Harvey up on the wall. And he said, sure. He went up on the balcony, got wire out, and strung it up on the wall and everything. And everyone that walked in the bar could see that picture of Harvey and remind him of what a great guy he was. So if you're ever down Castro and you have a bar you want to spend money in, that's the place to go. Believe me. Yeah. So, all right. So, and finally, I want to thank the LGBTQ people and for everything they do. Still, working on the boycott. All of them. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All trans. They've had a hard fight, and they've been fighting back all these years, and finally they're winning a couple of fights, and I hope they never quit, okay?
Yes.
Okay then.
All right, thank you, Alan.